What I wanted to do here is add a little bit of how I tell a story to the storytelling conversation. And I wanted to begin with a post I made. It's a public post, so I can link to it. I just wanted to show you a few of the elements that build out a story. And it's about a snippet of a quote I heard called Drowning in Information While Starving for Wisdom. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you I don't pick titles for SEO and maximization on being found on Google. I pick them because they amuse me. And if you're not amused, you're not doing it for yourself, I think you're going to be disappointed because when you try to chase after the thing, the connection, the viral post, you kind of lose the point that, for many of us, why we do what we do, why we are storytellers. So I start this story here, bringing that text to life. Like, what did that mean for me? Why, why E.O. Wilson? Why was this someone that mattered? And this links to a video that introduces you to E.O. Wilson, his brilliant mind, and all of that. And I'll include these links separate so you can click on them and watch them at your leisure. And, I was just telling a story, about how when I was very little, probably 6 or 7 years old at the oldest, I was sitting around playing outside and I put ants from one anthill in another. And that may be why Wilson resonated with me because he was this naturalist and Harvard. And I noticed he worked with ants and I'd been fascinated with ants since a little girl. But that's an important part of the story, right? I could have just introduced you to E.O. Wilson and kept that little bit to myself. But it's kind of an important reason as to why this matters, and why these little ants scurrying about, are amusing to me. And you can add things like this to your posts, video elements that are just powerful or just kind of ground you in that multimedia digital storytelling world. And, I continue to tell the story here and I'm linking to things. I'm giving you some background. I always told people when I used to teach a lot of speaker training in pharmaceutical sales, not sales, in pharmaceutical, because people would forget the point of the story. And often you need the context to understand why the story should matter, why it's not just a list of facts, because nobody is going to remember a list of facts. Maybe in the moment you might say, wow, that's a bigger number than I thought, or a smaller number than I thought, but you're not really going to remember. And that's what we want to be able to do when we tell stories, especially if they're stories that matter. So I link here to, David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet. It's a beautiful documentary. It kind of lets you know why I'm here, why I might be qualified to tell this story, and why the story matters to me. And that's always important when you're creating a dialogue like, why you? And why do you care? And why now? So that's why I talk about why I'm not just teaching you how to do a presentation. Those are viral. People with PowerPoint, presentations that are like 5 things that you need to do and 3 things and it's like, why? To what end? Why do you want to stare at some static object and have somebody talking to you? It should be immersive. It should be like digital storytelling. And that's what we're trying to build up in our skills now. And that's why I'm making this video to kind of show you how you can do it really without much thought. You're probably doing a lot of it organically anyway, without me telling you. I'm here to just create that awareness. And what's interesting too, everyone's an expert now, right? We're all over LinkedIn and talking in little videos and blah, blah, blah. But just like in medical research and in medical education, where I worked for 20 years, when you're reading an article, you have to, who's sponsoring that article, right? If someone's telling you this is the best drug in the world and that drug is made by Pfizer and Pfizer's talking to you and telling you it's the best drug in the world, you have to take it with a grain of salt. And why I'm telling you this is because I see a lot of people in the climate science, in the renewable energy world, in the, power supply, all of that. And you look and see who employs them. Because what I always think about is this quote by Upton Sinclair. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. And we could elaborate on that all day, but I think you get the gist of what I'm talking about there. So, I'm just talking a little bit about, you can read through this at your leisure. You don't need me to read for you. I'm just showing you the highlights that have a little bit of information behind them. So I had read about Atacama Desert in Chile. And the reason I was kind of looking around the area and had some satellite data on hand is because I was also looking at the mining region there, and it's just disastrous. So happened to be in the neighborhood, and I was reading about this beautiful desert in Chile where fast fashion, the stuff you pick up at H&M and blah, 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 stuff you buy and you don't care if it's around next season, you're going to toss it anyway. And what I thought was really interesting is not being aware of what this does. We all donate our clothes. We're doing the right thing. Yeah, maybe I don't really need another black turtle bag, but I just donated the old one. This is great. Keep that circular economy buzzing. I didn't realize that these items were sent to a duty-free port in Chile and then dumped in the Atacama Desert, and to great disastrous harm. And they were talking about how, if you purchase, high resolution satellite data, you could see it too. Well, I found it on a base map. You wouldn't need to do anything. And you can find these little spots all over the region near the port where they tell you you can find it. And there it is. And they tend to burn it off. So you can see the burning scars as well. And you can imagine what this is doing to the local communities. And if you look really careful, you can see along the roadway here where they're just being dumped along the road as well. Because in Chile, you can't put the clothing into regular waste centers. Because it impacts the soil, blah, blah, blah. The details are in these articles. And so they just are dumping them places and they keep arriving into the port. And there's a whole economy built around it, but it is polluting the desert. And what I wanted to share with you predominantly in this video is this story. And this story, think about what I just told you about, clothes are being dumped in the desert. And you react and you're like, oh, that's horrible. Now imagine if this is the story. What's just being here is doing trash to be picked up in Chile with the clothing that has been dumped there. First time I saw this, and it comes to time, we saw the emotionality of what these people are experiencing brought to life in this video. It shows you how storytelling can thoughtful rendering of visual, video, context, and you'll be able to link to all this in my story. I just worked here. This part of the big thing was just a story that I was writing, and I wanted you to be able to experience it the way that I experienced. It all began with just looking at some information, exploring geospatial, me just giving you a background of how the story came to be might help you reverse engineer how you think of building your other stories. So I wanted to give you this cohesive sort of summary to accompany a lot of the individual videos that I've already included for you to look at and this your skill development.